Mario to Pokemon to Halo to Minecraft to Fortnite to which game is going to become the Web3 classic? That is my question, and I am sure you've got loads of questions because this week we are talking about gaming. It is the Rise Up Morning Show. It's morning somewhere. I've got my coffee. It's time to wake up and smell the crypto on what is, in my opinion, the best show on the blockchain. Not least in part because our awesome audience, our awesome community. Thank you everybody so much for joining me here. If you're seeing me for the first time, my name is Evan. It is great to be with you this Monday morning. I will be joined shortly by my co-host, Mr. Alex Popovich. Together, we are working our way through different topics related to the world of Web3, blockchain, crypto, and of course adjacent stuff like artificial intelligence or quantum computing. Big techie stuff to break it down in ways that make sense for everyday folks like us. We want to help you understand why this stuff matters, and more importantly, how to start using it right now if it's going to impact your life. And if it's not, then you can just come by and hang out with us. We're a lot of fun. We take what we do very seriously, and we want to help you just get a little bit better at understanding what it is if it matters for you. You can join us every Monday through Thursday at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time and in our Discord server. We are at discord.gg/the-many, as in the Faceless Many, like we, the everyday people of the world. We are the Faceless Many. It is up to us to rise up and write a better story, a better future. It's a cool place to hang out. Easy place to come in. No one's ever going to try and sell you anything. It doesn't cost anything. It's never going to cost anything. And of course, if you want to get caught up, what I recommend is getting in the Discord and then also checking out our YouTube where we upload all of our old episodes. Like this episode here live will become an episode on YouTube tomorrow. So check us out at Faceless_Labs. And I recommend starting with the web. Slow this stuff down and really help you get up to speed with blockchain. But excited to talk about gaming, am I right, man? How are you, Alex? Well, hang on a second. Hang on, I had to invite him to turn on his mic. I don't know what the hell it did to you, but how are you? Let's try it again. There you go.
Not bad. It's been a hectic dog morning.
I see. Well, I'm glad you made it in one piece, man.
Barely, but I'm here.
Well, good morning to you. Good morning to Fred. Good morning to everybody who's joining us. If you want to do anything immediately to help the show, I always say the best thing you can do is tap that screen. It's such a TikTok trope, but tap the screen. If you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment. Let me know what your questions are today as we get into gaming. Alex and I are really excited about this, and Alex is certainly more of an expert on it than I am. But that'll give us a lot of perspective, a lot of surface area to cover. We're really excited to get up to speed about this. But before I ask you about gaming, how was your time with your family this weekend? Are your mom and sister still there?
Still there till tonight. Yep.
Oh, that's great, man. Are you guys? You got any plans for today?
I think we'll just probably do the river today, but we went and recreated half of our date yesterday. Yep.
Did you go to Indian food?
We did.
Yep.
Dude, just becoming regulars there, and every time I go, he gives me more free food than the last time.
And every time you go, he's like, "Who are you bringing this time?"
Everyone.
Family. Wow, man, I love it.
Yeah, so it was good. Got tons of food. He gave us free desserts. Came out with a big ass basket of free bread.
Oh man!
Called
I
me
wish I lived closer. You did? Pat me on the shoulder, my friend. Yeah. Got the my friend treatment. Man, that's great. When I come, we got to go back. Yeah. Oh my gosh. If he wants to come to Memphis, there's no doubt in my mind they'd make a killing here. Anywhere. That food is so good.
So we were looking yesterday because same thing. It was like, we were the only ones in there, and I guess like 80% or something of their business is like DoorDash takeout.
Okay. All right. Okay.
which I guess makes sense. Made me feel a little bit better.
I mean, because they deserve the business. That is a restaurant. If I've ever been to a restaurant that I needed Keith Lee to talk about, that's on my list, man. That bread
Yeah,
alone was so good. Everything was good, but the bread was so good.
yeah, it's nuts.
Um, well, what should we get into today? I've been mostly this weekend. I've been digging in my garden. I'm surrounded by seed packets and seed starters, and ready to get back into the world of like digital things. I have, as they say, touched a grass.
And
So
you've had enough of that.
had enough grass for now. I'll probably plant some wildflowers later because I do enjoy it. But like, man, what's your vision? We haven't made time to really sit down and like roadmap this week. And usually we kind of follow. If you're new, Alex and I are talking through it, but we kind of follow a theme of introduction, deep
Yep.
dives, question and answer, and then our Thursday day is usually a little goofier. Um, so I was kind of planning to follow that same kind of theme, just generally introduce people to the problem of ownership in gaming, among
Yeah.
other things, and then help talk them through some of the kinds of benefits that tokens, protocols, code that can execute itself can bring gaming communities. But I really wanted to defer to you because,
No,
um,
I think that makes sense. I think starting with I figured today, just because, like Evan said, we didn't get a chance to sit down and roadmap the whole week out quite yet. I think it would make more sense to talk about why any of this is even a conversation today, because I think there's a lot of points that anyone who has ever played a game, or I should say, has ever cared about a video game, can relate to. And honestly, by this extension, anyone who likes TV shows and movies to the point where they want to, buy them. Like if you've ever bought, downloaded a movie or something like that. Because I haven't done a ton of that, but I have a friend who, an interesting anecdote just to kind of get us into this.
yeah,
One of my very good friends is an avid Blu-ray disc collector.
okay,
Like when a movie he really likes comes out, he always springs for the collector's edition. Like the metal case with the crazy artwork and all that sort of stuff. He is also notably, I don't want to say anti Web3, but just thinks the whole thing is stupid and pointless
really,
and serves no purpose. And my most aha moment with him is when I was like, "Why do you do that?" And he's like, "Because he doesn't watch them anymore. He's not like cracking them open and watching them. He'll just watch it on a streaming service. But he has this big, beautiful display with all of the cases, and there's tons. I mean, it's not an insignificant collection. It's pretty significant.
yeah,
Anyway, he's just like, oh well, it just makes no sense to not own it. I want to own if I bought the movie, I want to own the movie. And I was like, come again? And he's like, I want to own the movie. If I just download it, I don't own it. They could turn it off. And I was like, no shit. And he was like, I see where you're going with this.
I see what you've done there.
Yeah. He's a very stubborn old man in a young man's body. But anyway, that was the first moment of headway where, because I think he has a very hard time separating the idea of what the tech is from crypto. And honestly, I mean, I can't really fault anyone for that, because as I'm looking at the news just today, right, we see that DChat announced their token drop. Was it yesterday or this morning? Very early this morning. And Zach XBT very quickly alerted everyone to the fact that they had in fact not shared the correct contract link to their own token. They had shared a honeypot link to a scam version of their own token instead.
Oh my god. What?
And apparently nobody audited that or checked it before they posted it. So the official, like, gold checkmark verified Twitter account shared a honeypot link this morning or late last night, and people lost money. And of course they've amended it after Zach pointed it out, but the point still stands. Like, this is kind of a morbid time to remind us that we're early, but like, if you've got a group like this, who, just in case anyone isn't aware, the gold check mark on Twitter is like not cheap. What is it? Is it $1,000 a month?
It's on the order of thousands of dollars a month, and I think it might scale, but the low end is thousands, I do believe.
Yeah, it's stupid. It's anyway. So someone who is paying thousands of dollars to use Twitter as a platform, which not going to make it, is not even able to like link their own actual like no one's checking. I don't know. It's just sad. So that now, of course, there are people, asking them like, "Hey, are you clearly are at fault for this? Like, this is clearly an act of negligence." I think that any of their users who was following that official account, waiting for the token drop, address to be shared, and then got scammed by a malicious honeypot. And just for in case anyone is unaware, a honeypot is a particular kind of scam used in crypto a lot, wherein someone will write a good-looking smart contract to initial glance, and basically what it is it's like a buy only typically. You won't be able to do anything after you put money in. It's a honeypot refers to a tantalizing looking treat. This seems
Attractive.
Attractive. It just meant to lure in money, and then
Once
you
your
won't.
paw is in, it's stuck.
Yeah, exactly. So you cannot sell out of a honeypot scam. Once you buy something, you get nothing in return, and your money's gone.
Alex, I saw you sent this morning that article about Andrew Tate too, and we had a good question. This is a good thread to get into to segue us into why gaming. A lot of people, including someone in our chat here, I'm sorry I didn't catch your username just there, Edmund3IRL, asked about what is just generally Web3. Is it just putting my private data on a blockchain? It is not only using blockchain to store, retrieve information. It is using computers based on blockchain that can make their own commitments, which allows us to remove some trust from human interactions where a computer could do it better the way a calculator does math.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, it's nice to have a human at your bank, but you probably don't want a human counting the change every day, all the time. It takes them too long. They're likely to make a sloppy mistake. If somebody brings a gun into the bank, they might be afraid for their life and give the money over. They might decide to steal some of the money. There's a lot of trust there, and they just don't do that job as well as a computer could do that job. And so it's also about helping us streamline some of the things that we do to make meaning as humans so we can do more of it, so that humans can do what humans can do well, computers can do what computers do well, we can trust each other more. And ultimately, the other thing is the web right now is very closed because it's owned by so many intermediaries like Facebook, eBay, Amazon that give you stuff to do on their platform, on their terms and conditions. The other thing about Web3 is it's an ownership revolution. The protocols, the code, the programs, the Amazons, the eBays of Web3 will be built by communities of people who are probably working open source, to share the benefits of use with each other. Things you'll be able to take stuff from one place to another. Not only will the followers you accumulate or the likes you accumulate, whatever you're doing online, be yours, it will be portable. It will be composable. Burger King will be able to see who is McDonald's best customer, and it will be good for McDonald's, for Burger King, and for the people who buy the burgers for the first time. And that's what we're really trying to get into on this show is helping people connect to the light bulb. If what you care about is owning the Blu-ray, then you should be excited that now you have the opportunity to truly own a digital file of the film as well. To have provenance for something that is up until now been just a copy, indistinguishable. I feel like I've still made it too pie in the sky, which is why I'm glad we're talking about it with a specific concrete example. Gaming. What does that look like? What does it look like? Are we ready to go there to show why people like Andrew Tate in this case and probably many others, don't really know what they're talking about. I'll go out on a limb and say.
He's not an individual worthy of anyone platforming, but
Yeah, I know
to shorten a little
yeah,
bit
help
of
me out because I went too many places.
the basic idea is that if the first iteration of the internet, the first like use case of it was just to let people read some stuff, and then it evolved into what is colloquially known as Web 2, basically just let us also start contributing and posting stuff. But a giant corporation still owned all of the stuff that got posted. Web 3 really just wants to see the people who contribute the stuff get to own the stuff that they contribute. And that's probably the shortest way that I could describe. Web 3 doesn't mean anything specific. It's a marketing term just used to kind of encapsulate all of this stuff. Blockchain is widely used in Web 3 because it's a good, easy way to store information in a way that someone else can't futz with it. But there are other tools that can be used for this as well. AI has Web3 applications by itself, sans blockchain. Blockchain just happens to be the most widely used tool in the Web3 toolbox at this point.
And it's essential. It's absolutely essential. Blockchain, and also, smart contract platforms, something like Ethereum. So essential. Being able for everyday people being able to use blockchain to do whatever they want it to do to get those benefits. That's the secret sauce.
Yeah. So there's Edmund, you also mentioned use to honeypots being used in security to detect and trap intruders. Mm-hmm. It's the same exact concept. The concept that like we are using a piece of code to lure in someone. Unfortunately, in this case, in terms of how the scam works, the person being lured is an investor, and it's meant to steal their money. But Edmund, it's the exact same idea. It's an attractive trap.
Oh, sorry, Alex. I keep stepping you.
No, it's an attractive trap just to trick someone into doing something. But it's a good point. It's worth acknowledging that if you are familiar with coding terminology, you may have heard honeypot used in a better context before because it's also used by white hats to trap, malicious hackers.
Yeah. In this case, bad.
I do think that businesses will adopt NFTs and Web3 in some iteration, in some form, and that's kind of as we get into it this week. Well, I know you know about gaming too, but this is
welcome.
I think that gaming is like the easiest way to make it make sense if you're a little bit unsure. And I think the beautiful part about this is that we could do this entire week without ever talking about cryptocurrency once and still get all of the points across. Yeah, great question. Who pays the server fees on the back end? Are there advertisers? So couple parts to that. Are there advertisers? Absolutely. You can advertise anything on anything. Server fees in this case are typically referred to as gas fees, which are just the cost of the network doing the network things. That's no different than the cost of storage or the cost of usage that you might encounter as someone who is renting server space from Amazon or from Google. So like you make a free Gmail account, you get so much storage. If you need more than that, you can buy more storage from Google. On a blockchain, it's the exact same thing. Someone has to pay for all of that stuff to happen. Typically in a decentralized ecosystem, the cost of usage goes to the user. Ethereum, for example, is notoriously an expensive network to use because it is old. It was not built necessarily to be used as much as it is currently being used by as many people as it is being used by. And so the cost of the usage goes up with congestion, and the users front run all of that cost. If I want to send something on the Ethereum network, I also have to pay the gas for that to happen. And if lots of other people are using it at the same time, it can be very expensive, to the tune of hundreds of dollars for a single transaction, which is obviously not great. That's really shooting it in the foot as far as being massively adopted. Um, computations on a quantum level. Yeah, quantum has a really interesting involvement with all of this. There's some other creators that are better. You know what? I'm gonna let me get her username and just write it on my desk because I keep sending people to her profile. But there is a really good, there's a really great creator on this app who is she has a PhD in quantum mechanics or physics, one of the two. Anyway, she works with building quantum computers, and she talks about it a lot. Basically, just that and I am not the one to have this particular conversation, but she can tell you way more about it than I can. Essentially, just assuaging some fears about quantum computing being used to break Bitcoin. She makes a point that I've made before, which is just that in a world where a quantum computer is capable of doing something on that magnitude, it's not going to go to Bitcoin. It's going to go to Bank of America because there's more money there, and it's a lot easier to steal.
Big time.
I was just like, think about that. In a world where a quantum computer can hack into your device remotely, they also want to steal things the most efficient way possible. And what's more efficient, breaking a 4-digit PIN code on your bank app or breaking Bitcoin's encryption? It's not even close.
Yeah, and that's the same objection people have, I have when people say, "What if the grid went down?" How would you get your crypto? And I like to tell people, we can use crypto with pencil and paper. It would suck. It's mostly unusable, but also in the rush to hoard bananas from my grocery store and make sure, I have other survival supplies. Mostly Bitcoin will be the absolute last thing on my mind because the network can put it together when we get back online. Until then, we've got an active, end of world scenario on our.
We have an apocalypse.
Yeah. I want to remind you real quick, if you're watching this on YouTube in the future, first of all, hello. I hope it's not the apocalypse there. And if it is, that you're doing well. If you are curious about who we're talking to, we are talking to the live chat, and we are here live on TikTok every Monday through Thursday at 7:30 a.m. 7 a.m. is when we start Central Standard Time. We usually go until about 8:30. I'm juggling time zones in my head. If you want to ask us a question live, this is the best place to do it. So feel free to come on over. You can join through my profile or Alex's. They're all in the description below. And if you're here on TikTok, loving the questions, see our friends Mula, Fred, Edwin. Thank you so much for being here. These are great questions. We're on a roll, like butter. We're on a roll. Yeah, So people are asking left and right, lots of different things. I did see one last question that we didn't address that I want to touch on because I think it'll kind of set us up nicely for where we can go with the problem of gaming. I would love to know, because I'd really just like to know what you said a second ago. I'd like you to follow up on it. We can talk about it without talking about crypto. But the question was, will there be open protocol social networks? Is that what we're going to build? Meaning, is follow-up to Web3. It's going to be open protocol everything and private protocol everything you want. When your foundation is open, you can build anything closed on top of it. If the foundational layer is closed, it's really hard to build open things on top of that. And if you look at the history of humans, you see a history of cooperation, some competition for sure. But the biggest movements on the internet, the biggest movements in the real world have been cooperative movements. It is one thing to become Facebook or Amazon and hire the best developer. It's another thing to start a great movement and attract all of them. And that's the kind of thing we're doing here. If you're interested in social media specifically, Alex and I are checking out Warpcast right now, which is built on top of the Farcaster platform, which is an open protocol that anyone can build on top of that has a lot of cool features. We've talked about that before last week. I think there will probably be many decentralized social networks that you will move in and out of, just like I think there are going to be lots of games, like there are now, that you would want to play. But the future we're talking about is one where it's easier to do the things you already love to do, connect with other players, show off your achievements, take what is yours to share it with people that matter to you as games develop in this future internet.
I think the social media thing is it's an interesting one to keep an eye on. It's kind of tricky because while you can pretty easily apply, you know, Web3 benefits to something like gaming, it's a lot harder to do it with social media without breaking stuff. Because I mean, if I was to find the most relevant equivalent in today's internet landscape that could be considered a more decentralized social media platform, we end up with 4chan. And decentralized as a buzzword is often paired with, you know, uncensored. There's this like fetish amongst a ton of people to like be on platforms that are not censored. I think those people have not been on 4chan before.
Yeah.
There's a very specific thing that happens on the internet when you don't censor and moderate and have someone controlling the stuff that gets posted on a platform, which I think just needs to be considered. Because like NAMBLA is a real organization. And if you remove all of the posting barriers to content that goes on a platform, they show up in droves and co-opt the thing. And a bunch of other really seedy stuff starts getting posted as well. And then any user who just wants to like hang out and talk about their lunch, you're going to leave. No one would ever go to 4chan to share pictures of a cool lunch that you just got at a nice restaurant because you're going to be drowned in pedophile sympathizers and homegrown terrorists. So like you can't.
That sounds like the name of a restaurant, Homegrown Terrorists.
You just really can't have that. So that's going to be a really interesting use of probably code to moderate, in which like the users of a platform would have to agree to certain rules and parameters, and then code would enforce it so that there wouldn't be some sort of like slanted, like for example, you know, the most common complaint that I hear is, you know, that like certain political views would get shadow banned or whatever. So the idea would then be that, you know, posts would get analyzed by something, and if it was determined to be political in nature, it would undergo the exact same level of scrutiny, regardless of which side or of the spectrum it was supporting. It wouldn't just be like, oh, this is a leftist post, shun, or this is a leftist post, promote. It would just be, this is political in nature. Are we allowing political in nature posts? AI could do it, but the one thing that I always like to remind people is that AIs have to be trained by someone or be referencing a data set generated by someone. And so you will not find totally unbiased AI opinions at this point, because they are still being trained by human beings who are inherently biased. So like, I know there have been tons of examples of people asking specific questions to like GPT and other big, you know, large language model AI platforms and getting super biased answers because the nature of its construction from the beginning was inherently biased because of the engineers that put it together. But hang on, I want to back up a little smidge here. ArcBlock, I don't know a ton about it.
I was going to touch that. We had a question in the comments. Can you speak about ArcBlock? I can catch you up real quick and give you the skinny. So ArcBlock is a decentralized app platform, smart contract platform. Their whole thing is like build for the future. They've been around for years. And just a couple days ago, their token, ABT, went on a tear. And this is a really good conversation to have for people who say, why make everything a crypto? And to talk about thoughtful approaches for that. Their token, ABT, is like VeChain, VET. It's used to pay for things in the ecosystem. The token matters to people who are developing stuff on the platform. And it just went a couple days ago from below 50 cents to almost $2 a token, I think is where it's sitting. I just checked. And this is, I don't know enough about this ecosystem because I'm not involved in it. I don't have the developer sentiment, but this is generally speaking something that I would classify, and I think you would too, Alex, as a problem in the long term because it's competing incentives. Right now, most of the attention on ArcBlock is from people who will never use the platform, but who want to buy the token as speculators for good reason because the price is, acting all volatile. It's going up. And because it's a small company in an innovative field, there's not enough of a market cap to absorb the kind of interest the speculators are bringing. And what is happening as a result is that people who are developers on the platform, I would be willing to bet, all of it, are frustrated about this. When you have a token that is supposed to support usage and a token that is becoming speculative, those two things, the desire to be stable, the desire to go up, they compete with each other. One of them will
Well,
win
it's
out and one audience will be frustrated. That doesn't make me excited for them long term. That makes me think they didn't plan that well. But also, maybe they're going to raise a lot of VC money. Maybe they're going to do a public
yeah.
offering, shift the speculation to a stock. I don't know. But that's a
It
story we
could
see a
be
lot.
multiple things. I tend to agree that in general, long term, it's not super ideal to have like a native asset that is needed to make the platform function just getting more and more and more expensive. Like eventually you will price out the users and then you'll just have Ethereum again, which is really unfortunate. Um, and that just is something that's going to have to be. I mean, to be fair though, basically every single project is a victim to that. I don't really know of any that aren't.
Well, and that's why people are very validly criticizing, what they see is happening in Web3.
Yeah.
They see it as like the financialization and speculative whateverization of everything. And that's really the smallest part of what's happening here. And as we're talking about with something like gaming or something like social media, something like decentralized infrastructure identity,
Yeah.
that's really not what this is going to be. It's
Yeah.
going to be much more of a computer than a casino. That's the metaphor my guy Chris Dixon likes to use. And there was a question a little while ago. I'm not going to touch it now. I don't think we need to about capital, about investors, why they would invest in open source. There are a lot of good answers to that question from people who are more well qualified than me to give it. And the person I would recommend is Chris Dixon, lead investor at Andreessen Horowitz Web3. Manages a portfolio of way too much money and speaks very cogently not only about ethics, investing, but really talks well about read, write, own, the future of the internet, what we're doing here. And I just happen to have, this is totally not sponsored, he just wrote a book that
But
I
it could
think
be.
is fantastic. It could be sponsored, and I do have an affiliate link that you can probably find in my profile. It would help the show, but it's honestly, a lot of his stuff is free online. This is just a compilation of it. If you want to know more about that, I highly recommend it. I'm a total simp for Chris Dixon.
I would say two things. One, there's a tremendous amount of examples of open source being investable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The most recent relevant example, as it pertains to the gaming space, too, is that when Unity last year decided to pull its little stunt, shall we
Yeah, what did
say?
they do? They took their servers offline or something?
No. They re-racked their fee structure so
Okay.
that
Yeah.
it's a long-winded way of saying that they made it impossible for free-to-play games to exist, because the developers had to pay per download, even if they were not making any money off the download. They owed Unity money per download. So anyway, what ended up happening is that a tremendous number of games left the Unity platform, and actually quite a few of them went over to Godot, which is a totally open source game engine. And a tremendous amount of money flowed straight into Godot from previous Unity investors who pulled funding and went over to Godot. It did not go well for Unity at all, and they very rapidly walked back almost the entire thing.
Yeah.
They were crucified online. If you just go back and search up, through the archives of Twitter, you will see not a single good thing being said about Unity when they did that. It was I don't know who in BD and marketing would ever like approve that to go out. It was the single stupidest thing I've seen a business do in a long time.
Yeah.
Um,
I want to add just one more. Since you opened the can, I want to add two quick things. Competitive advantage is a huge incentive for investors, and if you are going to back an open source company, you are going to back an entire movement of developers if they're really passionate about it. You are going to get so much innovation. You're going to build so many relationships with early innovators. And if you're somebody like a Coinbase or like an A16Z, the reason that they do it is because they also want to have regulatory influence. I mean, think about it from a business perspective. If I'm Chris Dixon, I might be the most altruistic person in the world, but I want to make sure that the congressmen who know my name love crypto and understand that I am going to help them and my colleagues are going to help them make it safe for other people. And this is how. And then I'm the guy who's set up to, offer the service to you. It's like a catch-22. It positions those people to become, the hegemons, the Amazons, the Jeff Bezoses. Um, but it maybe supports a more open, expansive ecosystem. I don't know. I think we're going to have a battle about it soon, like an
But
intellectual battle.
there's more to it too that can benefit these people, because I've said, one of our pitches, one of the more compelling arguments for a company to use Web3 if all they're interested in is profit.
Mhm.
It's a self-interested architecture, if you think about it too, because that ownership typically means something to the people who then get to own stuff. And so if
Yeah.
you incentivize your holders to find more value in more things that they would not have been able to value from your company prior to getting it in this manner, you can make the whole ecosystem more valuable, because suddenly it means something more to people. So a good brand will tell you that the quality and the specifics in their products almost matters like secondarily to their identity as a brand. Like take Gucci for example. I don't think anybody who is a big fan and like collects Gucci, and I'm just picking Gucci out of a hat, it could be anything.
It could be
I
anybody.
don't think anyone who like enjoys those robes or slippers or belts or whatever
Jeff
they
Jones.
all have, would look you in the eye and tell you this is the single most high quality clothing item of all time. Like, I'm pretty sure my flannel from Costco will last longer, but it's not Gucci, right? So like, if you want the brand identity behind it, that is the piece that matters. And so being able to connect with your customers on a more deep level with regards to sharing that identity makes them more fervent customers and makes them want to spend more money from you, and allows you to charge more for stuff because they want more and more and more to be a part of that ecosystem.
Yeah.
And that is the power of Web3izing a brand, is you give just more and more and more power and ownership to your people, and you create a community rather than just a batch of customers who will go to a different community or a different company. Black Rifle Coffee, right? Like, they don't worry too much about competition being taken by another random no-name coffee brand, because the people who like them really like them for who they are and their message and their vibe and all that kind of shit. And so that's the appeal of Web3 to corporate companies, that whole world, because ultimately they want more dedicated, more loyal customers. And these are tools that make it easier to cultivate that sort of customer base.
You're inviting people, I would say, into the stories they care about. If the story they care about is Gucci, you are giving them more touch points, more means, not just to collect, observe, participate in the story, but actively help you in telling it. One of the things I'm most excited about with gaming, which will broadly apply, is it will be so cool to see the people who naturally. I just finished watching in preparation for the launch of part 2 of the Final Fantasy VII remake. I finished watching a mod. There's this community called Suna Mods. I don't know if you know them. I think they do mostly RPGs, where they will cast voice actors to classic RPG games, and they will voice these often just, like captioned games. And they'll do other cool mods too. And I watched a cinematic playthrough that was, mostly just the story of the original Final Fantasy VII, voiced by these actors. And it was for actors who were like not in a room together and not being like Disney. It was fantastic for being a community sourced project, in my opinion, and I'm sure in the opinion of many other people. It should be part of like the canon of storytelling options that people get when they go to the Final Fantasy VII verse, because it didn't come from Square Enix. They're good about celebrating fan stuff somewhat, but it's a big fan base,
Mhm.
small corporation. Um, to have tokens in the hands of the people who care about your story also, whose contributions can be stored on a blockchain and more easily searched by people of all experience levels, votes, likes, those kind of things can be brought to the attention of the writing team, and they can do more to elevate and include those things. They can spread power to the edges of the circle, to niches like that, elevating those things. If fans care about that kind of stuff, what do they do right now? They can vote with their dollars and their attention, and YouTube keeps the profit. Um, but if we had a better platform with tokens that could help people, do more of that stuff, people would do more of that stuff. The games would be better. The stories would be better because more people were able to contribute to them. It would be like I don't know what you call it, a self-enforcing feedback loop. I'm really excited for that. And I think we are starting to see it in a couple places in the gaming community, but a lot of it really remains to be seen. It's like a vision that is happening now, that we'll be saying in 5 years, isn't this great? At least, 5 years. You think I'm optimistic about that? I feel like a lot of this stuff is on the way.
I mean,
We're working on it.
I hate because this so often gets said by just really grifty pie in the sky types of people. So before I say this, I want it known that I hate myself a little bit for saying it. But the idea of like slowly and then all at once is honestly how it's going to go. It's just the people who are building this stuff are going to be pushing. They're going to get nowhere. And then all of a sudden, some government entity or some giant corporation. It's like the ETF idea, right? Like it was nowhere. And then BlackRock was like, all right, enough of this shit. And then it happened because of the power that is Larry Fink and how many Congress people that man owns. So that's how I imagine this going. Like, in gaming, right? As we bring it back a little bit, and I did want to touch. There was another good question. I just wanted to agree with. I don't even have a ton to add to it. Joe said,
Don't you love when that happens? Somebody says it perfectly, and you're like, "Yep."
Yeah. Thoughts on decentralized GPUs? In their opinion, AI won't tolerate latency. That is 100% my concern with a lot of that kind of stuff as well. Although there are a lot of good examples of latency not being an issue with decentralized cloud storage ideas or decentralized server usage, because the protocol is the thing that's going to decide like how much power it needs to take in order to use whatever it's trying to do efficiently. And so my thinking would be that if Evan was trying to opt his own GPU capacity into that mix, and it was just garbage because Evan's GPU is a potato that was made in the 1700s.
Yeah, it sucks.
The network would probably just not use it. It would probably just like make an attempt and realize that latency is latency is like basically a measure of delay. If you're experiencing high latency in gaming, you would be lagging essentially. Latency then would be the amount of time it takes for like your machine to communicate with the game server and then to come back and get like an updated character position. And if that takes too long, you're going to put an input on your controller and then nothing's going to happen and you're going to lag.
Alex, can I ask you a question about that? Is that why the kids for Christmas this year are getting those crazy modems that are like, you're so fast now, you're so responsive? Is that what that's about? Like, it's not good enough just to have a regular internet connection when you're playing whatever game because you want to have like a millisecond? Is that real? I mean, it seemed real.
That's part of it. You can do stuff to zhuzh up your own connection on your end for sure.
Yeah.
But typically the problem is on the server side. It's inundated with requests and it gets a little bit behind. That is not to say that you like if your machine is not capable of processing what the server is giving back to you, then yes, of course, it's going to be a problem too. Dude, I don't know why today the sun is like mysteriously just in a different place that it's never at, but I'm struggling over here.
It's a psyop.
I might have to
the sun is a total psyop.
I might have to move. This is for reference. I have this look. I mean,
This
this window
totally
up here.
unnecessary ring light.
Yeah, it's
That's a
just
cool
it's never
place.
the sun is never like poking through that window, and this is ridiculous.
Feeling
But
cheeky today. That's okay. Um,
anyway, yeah. So latency is a problem, but in the context of decentralized GPU usage, which is basically just the idea where sort of like Mac said this in a video where he was talking about a project with GPU renting that was a really good way. It's like Airbnb-ing your hard drive. So, in the same way that if you have a house that you are not using completely, you could Airbnb a room, or you don't live there all year, so you could Airbnb it. It's the same thing.
yeah.
If you're not using your GPU to its full potential, you can rent its capacity to these decentralized servers who will pay you to use your GPU to help process whatever it is they're trying to process, whether it's mining a cryptocurrency that uses a GPU to mine, or whether it's literally just piggybacking off of your graphics hosting capabilities to stream something.
Yeah, but
Um,
let's really emphasize and be clear. Like, if you're hearing this for the first time and you're like, "Oh, this is how I can mine cryptocurrency or whatever," most opportunities to do this are not meant for like sharing. Like Alex said, I got an iPhone potato. Even if you've got an iPhone 13, if you've got a fresh MacBook or whatever, that is not the kind of GPU that's gonna. It's almost cost prohibitive at this point for you to get money that way, providing that service. That is a business, more or less. I have yet to see a promising, and I'm not very technical, a promising model for like sharing of GPUs that is worth the time and talent of everyday people. I mostly see like Pi as an example, and it's like crap. Um, do you see any that are good, Alex? Or I'm not saying there couldn't be any good ones. I'm just saying I feel like mostly it's enterprise or nothing at this point. Because the gap between what somebody like you or I could contribute with our, consumer machines versus somebody with a farm is so exponential.
mm, it doesn't matter if 10 million people are doing it. That's kind of the point. That
But what I'm saying is, do you see any operations where it is that distributed that it's worth their time? I mean, I think it's worth their time from a value perspective. Like, I might
yeah,
operate an Ethereum node because I just want to secure the network. I'm almost certainly not going to be processing as many transactions as like somebody who does it for a living. Um,
yeah.
that's what I meant. I just meant like those networks where the incentives are that way tend to be that there are a handful of actors that are, doing it. The Exxons of whatever. And then there's
Yeah.
folks like us who are just, kind of doing it to do it.
I mean, I don't, but I wouldn't even if there was a good example, just because I'm not paying attention to that kind of stuff. So
Well,
there could be. I'm just not well read enough to know about all of them. I imagine though that narrative will become more prevalent in this bull market. That has the vibes of being one of those narratives for like cryptos to rip,
yeah.
regardless of relevance, just because it's like a thing that people are interested in, you know.
I
Um,
absolutely love this comment from T Rock that says, just imagine paying a subscription to a video game and you get latency.
I mean, to be fair though, that's every single game on the market. I have yet to have encountered a game, all of which I've paid for, that doesn't have lag from time to time. It's usually blips. If you're running a machine that's capable of running the game that you're playing, the server side is still going to get bogged down every now and then. I mean, actually, Bungie, huge gaming studio, had an issue last year. I don't remember exactly what month it was, October, November, something like that. I'd have to look, where they were getting DDoSed repeatedly by, I don't even know if they ever figured out who it was, but the game was like largely unplayable. And this is a multi-billion-dollar studio with incredible server capacity. That's another controversial thing. Destiny doesn't have its own dedicated servers, but Bungie has servers. It was unplayable. DDoS is a denial of service attack. Basically, someone was just spamming their network with so many requests that it was unable to like do anything. So people trying to play games off of that network couldn't access the games. But they're all stuff we paid for. So like you were actively paying for something you couldn't use. which is obviously a problem. D, we talked about scale a lot last week. Um, Tech wise, solid network. I've spoken to them multiple times. Mac has a pretty good relationship with them. I think they really just need to restructure their grant program to incentivize builders. Otherwise, I think they're going to struggle with anything more than, maybe a AAA studio decides it's going to use a blockchain for something, and it would be like a total luck of the draw that they picked Scale. Why they would go with Scale over something like Avalanche from a corporate like marketing perspective, not talking about tech viability, just talking about marketability. I don't have a reason why they would do that. And indie devs are being kept out of Scale just because you need to go to Scale with money, which is a little bit of a problem.
And generally speaking, across blockchain, Alex, right now, Web3 gaming, wouldn't you say that people who are not willing to also launch a token as a way to fundraise for themselves because people aren't giving out grants
Yeah.
is like a hindrance? That's when I listen to you and like the frustrations you've had, it sounds like that's been a prominent frustration that frankly doesn't make sense to me from like a BD standpoint.
It's shitty because I could definitely use the money. I am, in a position where I'm looking for a job because, we don't have enough funding to finish building the thing we're building. So we're kind of just like doing it for free. Like no one's getting paid to build the stuff we're building right now. And I've turned down multiple six figures of funding because they wanted a token right now. And we weren't ready to launch one, regardless of whether or not I want one eventually. It didn't matter. It was just like, no, we need one right now to put on the exchange right now. In return, we'll give you $250,000. And that was a hard thing to say no to, but.
Is it just, Alex, is it just from your perspective what I articulated earlier about like it's a bad incentive to have, a token for a game that maybe people would use, but which is largely also speculative? The only way to make money on it is to dump on the people who are buying it, or is there like another reason?
Another reason to have one?
To not have one at the start.
Yeah.
As a fundraising mechanism specifically in your mind. Like just for people who are like, well, why wouldn't you do that? That's free. You know what I mean? I think there are a lot of people. We're in the minority. I think most people I feel like are like, launch a token, bro, and don't get it, or might not get
it. For us, it was just a simple. In the beginning, you need good gamer feedback from your launched game to determine whether you're headed down the right path game development wise. And you won't know that if you're doing token stuff, because if you are building a community based off of the hype of your token launch for your game, you're not attracting people who are excited to play your game. You're attracting people who are excited to trade your token. There's nothing wrong with those people, but you're not going to get the information that you want. They're going to prop up a dog shit game just because they want to make the token worth more money so that they can sell it for more money to somebody else.
Yeah.
And you basically just, I don't necessarily want to kickstart my game's release by getting the community riled around a pyramid scheme real quick. And there would be no purpose for it now. Like what I would rather do if I wanted to bring in the speculators in addition to the gamers is incentivize early gameplay with like airdrop tracking and then tell everyone, oh, well, we're going to get to a token eventually. Dude, I can't do this. Jesus
You are getting sunlight, man.
I'm just like cowering under my desk now. Anyway, jeez. So I would rather do that. I would rather start off and incentivize people to participate by building towards a token airdrop or something. Like early players are going to be first on the list for the airdrop. The more you play, the more you're going to be entitled to, and then just do a huge token drop that way instead. Because the use of a token in a game is it's such a no-brainer.
Let me. Can I pull on that thread? Because someone asked if you're not using a token right now, are you using an off-chain token in the interim? Talk about our game, but talk about gaming specifically. Like what would someone use a token for in a game? And I mean a token you could purchase. I mean a token that they earn. I mean tokens that are fungible as well as tokens that are non-fungible. Why would you use a token in the game? How does it address the problem of ownership?
So
Anything else you got?
yeah, that's
And
a
why
good.
aren't we using an off-chain token right now? Like hit it all.
All right, there's a lot there.
I know. I'll keep you focused. I'm just gonna let you roll and move you around.
Yeah, so we are using an off-chain solution at first, basically just to accumulate people. So in the syndicate games as it stands now, you get XP. XP is not tokenized, but you can use it to tokenize stuff. It's not ideal long term because you would want people to like really own things, and just because they have a method to turn their XP like into something on chain, I could still turn that off whenever I want. It's a single line in the Discord for me to disable the bot feature that lets you tokenize your XP. So that's that. In that case, your token doesn't matter at all because I can turn it off. So ideally, what you would want is you would want people to be rewarded for doing the thing you want them to do. In game design, you're always trying to think about what is your ideal player action, and then you want to try to push them to do that action. So in Clash of Clans, for example,
Sure.
If you want people to build, you want people to spend time building a better base, in which case they need to get resources. And how do they get resources? By raiding other people. So they're incentivized to raid other players in order to make their base better, to protect it from being raided. And they've created this perfect cyclical gameplay loop wherein you are always incentivized to play the game in order to protect yourself, because others are also incentivized to play the game to protect themselves, so that you are incentivized, et cetera, right? Tatiana, what's up? Good to see you.
It's the real one too. Hi, Tatiana.
It is the real one. I was talking about you the other week because right now I'm on a big kick of getting followed by Tatianas. Yeah, I get followed by 3 or 4 Tatianas every single day. Anyway, so think about and then the tokenization part allows you just to give more power to your player. So let's stick with Clash of Clans just because it's a game that I think a lot of people are at least somewhat familiar with. Inside of Clash of Clans, there is a currency called gems. And using gems, you can do all sorts of stuff to make your life in the game easier. You can skip build times. So if like upgrading your town hall would take 14 days, is I think what my next one is going to be. Yeah. You could skip that for a certain amount of gems and you wouldn't have to wait the 14 days. Obviously, they added those build times to give you a reason to buy gems from them because that's how they make money. It's a completely free-to-play game, but you can buy gems, and the incentive structure for buying gems in Clash of Clans is so great that company has made billions with a B in revenue from selling gems. So imagine now that instead of just them one-sided selling your one account gems was a cryptocurrency or a token, a fungible token that you could earn from playing the game. So the more you played, the longer you were online, the more other villages you raided, the better your defense was. You could earn more and more gems, and then you could either use them or you could trade them and sell them. And then Supercell, the company who makes Clash of Clans, could take a percentage fee off of every one of those transactions because you were selling them on the Supercell, token marketplace. And then that's how they made money instead. But at the same time, you, the player, could monetize your gameplay. And perhaps you were just a really good raider, but you didn't care so much about building a maxed out base. You just wanted to raid and you didn't care that other people were going to raid you too. You could monetize your raiding by being able to sell that kind of stuff. Or off of the monetization side, you might just want to make sure that you got to keep the stuff that you unlocked. So if you got to Town Hall 14 or whatever they're on now, and it took you years, That's not a thing you can just, if you are playing, especially not buying a shitload of gems, of course you could spend 20 grand in gems and you could max out on day one. But for people like me who've been playing that game for 10 years, maybe you didn't do that and you would like to just own the thing that you spent 10 years earning. So it's like, it took me 10 years to get to Town Hall 14. I want to own this Town Hall. It would be really cool if there was a way that you could mint yourself like a sticker that said Town Hall 14. You could only qualify for it if you actually had a Town Hall 14. And now because you have one, you have this sticker. If for some reason you lose your account, you lose your phone, you can't get back on this account, or something happens to it, it gets stolen, it gets hacked, it gets whatever, you could still have this little token. You could contact Supercell and be like, hey, I tokenized my account, to prove that it was mine. I lost it. Can you, help me restore it? They would have way more of an ability to help you like restore that account, because you could actually prove that, oh, I own this. I actually did it. I didn't just whatever. And if Evan did it and I was like, oh, that's dope, I want to buy that Town Hall. And then I was like, hey, Supercell, I have a Town Hall 14 token. I lost my account. Let me restore it. They could be like, oh, well, we can see that you actually didn't mint that. You bought it from Evan, who did it. And they'll be able to see that record forever because of the nature of blockchain. And there you go. It's really funny that you say this would be a great conversation with the founder of Drip. Because
do you know him? I was just following it in the comment.
I'm a big fan of Drip, and I actually just had a meeting with their lead app developer last week, and we agreed that we do get along. I love Drip. I'm a big fan of Drip.
Okay, great. And for anybody who's just joining, like our friend Tori, maybe you've been here, you're lurking, but it's good to see you. Thank you for being here. We're talking about gaming all week. You're like, whoa, wait a second, where'd the crypto go? Gaming, blockchain gaming, integrating tokens to give you a better experience, trying to make it human today. So that's where we are. And I'm really trying to just get Alex to say more, because, this is the problem people we're trying to solve. So you're caught up now. Don't let me stop you. Tap the screen if you find it helpful to let other people know. Share it with folks who are curious about this stuff. And if you know somebody who's doing this like Drip or whatever, send them our way for sure, because we would love to have a conversation with more people. Please continue.
So Vantage says she's friends with Tolly. I was thinking of a different Drip. I was thinking of the creator marketplace Drip on Solana right now. But yes, we are also friends with Tolly. Actually, we met Tolly because we were good friends with his brother.
And we tried to have him on the show, but TikTok makes it hard for guests to come. So
makes it hard. But no, we love the Bad Bears, and the bot service that Tolly has built for Drip is really, really cool. Actually, Tolly and his team are part of the reason that we were able to save money on our server setup for all of the TFM stuff, just because he helped optimize our. He could give you a better answer to technically what he did. He made it all more efficient, and he saved us a bunch of money. So Tolly is a G. We love Tolly.
Yeah. Okay, so bring it on home for me. So you've got you got people who have assets. People have stuff they care about, achievements. Tori made the example in the comments about selling a Diablo account a few years ago for $100. We talk all the time about RuneScape as wouldn't it be great if RuneScape was on the blockchain? Could you imagine?
I mean,
quite literally endless, and we probably both be rich.
It would be better for RuneScape if they did that, just because they could then own a piece of the pie instead of having to spend what I'm sure is a lot of resources fighting real world trading, because that's what they have been doing. Because there is a real world trading market for RuneScape stuff, and there always has been. If you go Google buy RuneScape gold, you are going to find so many websites where you can just swipe a credit card and buy the in-game currency to RuneScape, and there are a gajillion accounts that just sit there and farm it all day long so that they can sell it to you.
But that's the problem, it's like a black market, though. It's really risky.
It is. It's very risky, because if you get caught doing it, they're going to ban your account. And people have been doing it. But my point is that these things still exist. RuneScape is a 20-year-old game, and it's still happening to this day, and it always has happened. They've tried to fight it. You can trace some of the worst updates that game ever did just trying to combat that as an idea.
Yeah.
The biggest one, so in game you can trade with other players. You know, I find armor, I can sell it to Evan for his gold, or I can trade it for firewood or whatever I'm going to do. And they basically stopped trading between players. They removed the whole feature from the game where you could have an unbalanced trade between players. And it was universally hated. It was one of the stupidest. It was terrible. It was a horrible thing. It was so bad. Did it solve the problem of real world trading? It did, but at the expense of their entire player base's morale, so much so that they actually decided to undo it and re-allow real world trading because of how bad it hurt them in the long run. But if they just leaned into it and tokenized a bunch of stuff and then built a Jagex funded official marketplace upon which users could go in there and buy stuff from each other instead of from the company, from each other, I think they would solve a lot of problems. Because right now they're more heavily monetizing by selling treasure keys, which are basically it's pay to win now is what they did. Most people are unhappy about it, so much so that they cloned the game and relaunched it without access to that feature, and all the diehards now play the old cloned version instead of the new one.
That's a PR
to put it in perspective, the whole goal in RuneScape, right, is to get to level 99 or level 120 in a skill and get the cape, the skill cape that you can wear in game, and it lets everyone know, like, I've maxed this skill out.
You're a boss, yeah.
I have a lot of skill capes on my character. They mean so much less now than they used to because you can buy them. You can pay Jagex money to get a bunch of treasure keys and just cash in all those keys for experience lamps and just sit in the town square. And for what ends up being about $150, you can just buy a skill cape. So they've basically completely removed like the meaning of having a level 99 in anything, which is a big problem. However, they're doing it because they are struggling to make as much revenue as they used to make. Maybe fewer people are paying for the membership. Whatever it is, there are more games out now than there were before because, again, RuneScape is 20 years old. Whatever, I get it. They're trying to cover their bases and make more money. They could, however, one, make more money, and two, give their players more control over their accounts instead of just living in constant fear that they're going to accidentally do something and get banned or whatever, by just letting people actually own their shit instead. It also, I mean, their key thing tanked the value of my account. If I had wanted to sell that account before, it would have been worth thousands of dollars. It's not worth anything close to that now. Because one, it's really hard to prove that I got my skill capes earlier than all of these other updates because there's not great records kept of that. And two, it's all centralized. So,
Alex, I think all the time about the conversation we had with William quickly. And if anyone wants to catch up on this, we have it on our YouTube channel. It's Faceless_Labs. Selling it hard. But this is honestly a great conversation. Just search Rising Up Faceless Labs. You'll find it. William Quigley, his episode is clearly labeled. He said, so he's like a gaming OG, venture capitalist, founder, long time ago. Still today. He said that in gaming specifically, and generally in NFTs, that incumbent companies are not going to be the ones who innovate, the Fortnites, the RuneScapes, because their business model largely depends on them keeping things the way they are, keeping you from accessing these features, but that once startups, new companies, whatever, start to trickle out, people use the product and they experience the benefit, they will demand them, and then we'll see a shift in power from old guard to new companies, new models, new ways of doing things. Why, can you talk about that though, Alex? Like why doesn't RuneScape do that? Why doesn't the Apple Store make themselves more crypto friendly? Why doesn't Minecraft allow NFTs? And like, who is doing that you see aside from like us? You know, what are the steps to get there? But like, why not? Because to me, if I was at RuneScape, I would be like Jagex. I'd be like, guys. You know, I'd be knocking on their door
Yeah.
all the time.
Because they don't have enough examples yet for a gigantic corporate machine like those companies would require to implement a change like that. So adding Web3 is a really big deal to the company structure. Like that would, they have a lot to contend with. One, the general public perception of what it is to have Web3 in a game is still pretty heavily stigmatized. So much so that games are, I mean, it's a NFT is a dirty word
But like
a lot of the
you
time.
just said, we don't even have to talk about crypto. We could just say, hey, check out this skin. I really own it. It's not on someone else's server, whatever, right?
Because they just don't have a firm grasp on how best to share that. So what they need to see is more evidence. So the games that are coming out, I think this year and next year are going to be the thing that probably pushes that, because crypto gaming up until now has been garbage. You take a piece of shit and you reskin it and you slap a crypto on it and call it a Web3 game. What we need to see is, one, better games start from nothing, from small indie studios or from just fresh studios that are interested in Web3 stuff. And they need to see those games go well. So like if Shrapnel does really well, it's probably going to help push this. Big Time doing well helps push this narrative. And then you're going to have to see someone be the first one to take a stab at it. So like whether it's Bungie or whether it's Activision or whether it's Treyarch, somebody is going to need to risk it for the biscuit and take a stab at it. But they have a couple things to contend with there. Like I said, they have to contend with their shifting morale inside of their own player base who doesn't really understand the stuff and just hears the phrase NFT or token or Web3 or blockchain or whatever word they end up using and just they're, oh, fuck this, and they're out of there. There's some interesting polls that have happened, hey, if we were to implement NFTs, would you quit? And the overwhelming majority of players of whatever game would do that would say, yeah, they would go do something else. Supercell did it. They made a joke. I thought it was a brilliant way of taking a poll without making it sound like they were taking a poll.
Yeah, okay.
A new Supercell game was, I can't remember exactly how they phrased it, but basically they just said, we're investing in NFTs, non-fairy teleportation or something like that. And every single comment was, thank God I was about to uninstall all of the apps. I was about to uninstall everything. And it was like not one or two people saying that, it was thousands of people saying that. And instead, they tested the waters by toe dipping into a Web3 thing, with making it seem like they were just memeing, and then they read the pulse of everyone, and they didn't lose a single player because of it. Because to anyone who hated it, they were like, they're just making fun of it. I love these guys. And anyone who would have been into it was like, damn, maybe next time. Yeah. So it was brilliant. That was a beautifully executed marketing play on their part. Plus, they used it on like a brand new Splinter game that like wasn't it wasn't Clash of Clans, it wasn't Clash Royale or Heyday or anything. It was like a brand new startup that Supercell was funding. It was brilliant, but it was also sad to read just because the overwhelming majority of users in the comment section was just like, thank God that you're not really doing this, because I would leave 100%. Which is really funny. Because it just speaks to the need to show more people why it matters. Why it doesn't just have to be a pyramid scheme. Because that's the fear.
Who are some of the games that you are watching? You mentioned Big Time. You mentioned Shrapnel. I want to know games to watch, creators who are talking about this well, that people can start to do their homework on if they're catching up to the conversation. Take your time. And then I want to say, I think tomorrow we should absolutely talk more about Our deep dive should be on Syndicate games, obviously, and any of those other projects, but the game we're developing. And then I want to know about somebody asked, what are our favorite games? I feel like that might be a great way to kind of end the show today. I want to remind you, we're going to be back tomorrow, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. We'll do a deep dive on Syndicate games, maybe a couple of other games, a couple of features. Ask us your questions. We really tend to do most question and answer on Wednesday. Obviously, questions are great anytime, but do some homework on some of this stuff. We will too. Come back with questions fresh then. Also, your suggestions for creators, games to watch, stuff like that. For my money, Alex, I think a big part of it is gonna be infrastructure too. Not just people telling a story or pulling a psyop like Reddit did with NFTs and just gave them to millions of people. But I think something like Shoup, which we'll talk about, tomorrow, to have infrastructure where not only do people have NFTs and are they using them to get that benefit, but like it's seamless and better than what they're used to now, but like fit for this new different stuff. You wouldn't, I don't know, you wouldn't you wouldn't bring a knife to a gunfight. I don't know how to say it. The infrastructure is built for the old way of doing things. So we got to have some new infrastructure as well as a new story. But if you're looking for the story, what are the games? Who are the creators?
Yeah.
Where should our attention be right now?
So it's hard to say. It's hard to say like a big list of games that I'm watching. The biggest ones that I'm watching are, I think Shrapnel is the number one. I don't have enough bandwidth to watch like 45 different things, but I'm really intrigued by Shrapnel because they've been, I think.
What is Shrapnel?
Shrapnel is an extraction shooter. It's the same as if you're familiar with Escape from Tarkov. So the idea is that like you're a single character, you get dropped into an arena, you have nothing, you have to scavenge and find stuff, and then be like the last man. Yeah, you want to be the last man standing.
Got it.
So it's Escape from Tarkov, but it's supposed to be Web3 enabled. I got one of the extraction packs, which was like $150 NFT from Shrapnel. They gave it to me for being active in their social media stuff. I responded to enough stuff, and then one of them basically just sent me the NFT. I think they're a good one because extraction shooters are a pretty popular genre amongst like diehard gamers, and it'll be good to see whether or not it lands. There's a couple other ones. There's a lot of trading card related games just because NFTizing trading cards in games is like a pretty easy, it's a pretty easy methodology for using it. So like Gods Unchained is a pretty popular one. They've been around for years. And Tori, I should clarify, shooter, people who play shooters. Extractions are typically like, they're a little more challenging. So, people sort of enjoy that kind of stuff. If you're into shooters. If you don't play shooters, then obviously you wouldn't be into it. Other than that, I'm really just more interested in some specific studios and stuff. So like the people making Shrapnel, I'm sure will make other stuff. I'm waiting for some of the bigger ones that it makes a lot of sense. Like I would love to see something from Wizards of the Coast because they obviously kind of get it. That would be a pretty big deal to see them like do something like that. I don't know that I see them doing it anytime soon. Wizards of the Coast, they made Magic the Gathering. They have a couple other things as well, but they're known for Magic. I'm trying to find, there's a couple specific developers too that I think are doing some pretty cool stuff. The name of one of them is really escaping me, but I really like, I'll find it. Here we go. Paul Bettner. He's on Twitter.
Bettner?
Yeah, Bettner, Paul Bettner. He is he's a pretty big deal. He made Age of Empires, or he was one of the lead devs on Age of Empires. He did Words with Friends, which is obviously pretty popular. And he is making a new game right now called Wildcard, and it looks really interesting, and it's Web3 enabled. However, he has never once said Web3, NFT, crypto, blockchain. He's never used any of those words. I think he just refers to it as like a game using cutting edge technology. And the game looks incredible. Obviously, it looks incredible. This dude is no joke. He's also big on Warpcast. So you can tell he's kind of like, he's personally switched over to this sort of stuff. And it's really interesting, but you can...
Yeah, and quick interruption, I would say this show is not sponsored by Warpcast or Farcaster, but it could be. And if you want the alpha on, like, you're a budding crypto entrepreneur, you just like to be where the action is before everybody else gets to the party, Warpcast is the place to be right now. You can get on for free or cheap, and you can build proximity with people like that who are absolutely at the ground floor of decentralized social gaming, crypto, whatever. That's the place to be. And Twitter is the place to be too.
Yeah, so Tori, that's his name. His name is Paul Bettner. His Twitter handle is just his name, Paul Bettner. And then the game on Twitter is Wildcard. You play Wildcard, and let me just read you the description because I think it's pretty good. It's a PvP collectible-based MOBA. Right there, okay, I know exactly what it is. I'm fighting other people.
What is a
MOBA? I can collect stuff. And MOBA is multiplayer online battle arena, which just is a fancy, it's the gaming term for a room where I play other players.
Okay.
Merging traditional and cutting edge tech. And that's it. That's all it says.
Got it.
Which is obviously great. They have some gameplay footage. It looks awesome. I have no clue if they're going to do a token. I would be kind of surprised if they did. I think that their whole thing is just going to be collecting the cards and owning the cards, and you bet your ass I'm going to be in there. But Paul Bettner is awesome. He's definitely one to follow. Let's see here. If you go to my Twitter, which is just Alex Faceless LBS, I'll put it down here, and just look at my following list. Here we go.
Yeah, I was gonna say you probably
There's my handle.
have too many to just like mention.
Yeah, so it's hard to say. I follow a few just to kind of keep an eye on stuff, but some of the big ones, I would look for the things that I follow that are like the ecosystems, the gaming ecosystem. So like Game 7, Rev, Azra. There's a ton. Wolves DAO, Ronin as a network, Wilder World, I'm still pretty interested in. I think Beam is going to have some pretty cool stuff for gaming, and they are definitely ripping right now. Generally, they're obviously an all-encompassing ecosystem, but they have a big focus on gaming. There's a creator platform called RevGG that a friend of mine is building. They don't have tokens or anything like that. It's just kind of a place to like make a profile, and you can sort of create NFTs the way that POAP does over there. You can like make badges and then people can get them. ReadyGG is another one. There's a whole bunch of content creators too that are kind of shifting over. So like Crypto Stash was like a big YouTuber in crypto a while ago, and he's pretty much exclusively shifted to Web3 gaming. Brycent is a pretty big streamer who is now also on TikTok. Brycent. He's big on Twitter and Twitch, but he's recently shifted to TikTok as well. Yeah, I mean, there's just a ton. It's worth poking around on Twitter and just looking up Web3 gaming and just sort of following some of the conversations, and you can tell immediately if it's like one of those that is just pushing a single token. Like right now, one that has a lot of hype around is Heroes of Mavia or Mavia. Mavia. It is a straight ripoff of Clash of Clans, but with crypto. It's super popular right now. It is being talked about all over the place. I think it's stupid, but the token is probably going to do some numbers because everyone seems super into it. If you look at the gameplay footage, it's just a shitty reskin of Clash of Clans with less options. And they're literally selling it as Clash of Clans on chain.
Yeah.
But like zero innovation or skill or creativity went into making that game, which is just really unfortunate.
Alex, I want to while you're looking at this, I want to say we should make a list for this. And when we do, we will probably put it in the Discord. But Alex and I are working on my weekend project was exploring a couple of tools to support the show. Shout out to Tori for this. I think this is a great idea for a newsletter. I would love to say we could maybe play around and launch one at the end of this week. So stay tuned. Because the resources, I'm writing them down on a little sticky pad, but I already got lost. It's too long. What does that look?
That's the when breakfast look.
Oh my god. I'm tapping the screen for Zula.
Just mean mugging.
Just mean mugging. Well, we're almost at that time, and I feel like we're just about at a good stopping point. You want to kind of give our final thought? I thought a great question to kind of end on. Let's give a preview for the week. A great question to end on could be, what are our favorite games? Before we go, Let me say while you think about it, that we will be back tomorrow. You heard me say it, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. We will be in the Discord where everything is free and lists like this get posted. It's discord.gg/the menu. You can ask us a question in between times when we're off the air. You can see this as a recording at Faceless_Labs on YouTube. All our shows from last week are up. This one will be up soon. And you can ask your questions there in the comments too. You can subscribe to the channel. You can like us. You can really like us. And of course, follow Alex and I here on this platform. We're happy to help you navigate the world of Web3, and we will be back tomorrow to do a deep dive on the game that Alex is leading development of, Shades of Sin. We'll talk about the Syndicate games. We'll be talking more about Web3 gaming. We'll dive into the projects you want us to look into, give you our honest feedback, and then who knows where we'll be at the end of the week. I would love to be there with you, though, and we will be there with you here on the Rise Up Morning Show. So stay tuned, stick around. And I was hoping, Alex, the other thing we didn't talk about, we don't need to talk about, but I just want you to know, is I think we need a special POAP this week. I was looking at some of the images, and I don't know if there's one that stands out to me, but I think we need one to represent gaming.
I made a bunch.
Yeah. This man is a prolific POAP-ater.
I'll send you some art. You can pick one, but I made a bunch.
Cool. Then okay, round it out. Let's do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first? What are our favorite games? And post yours in the comments because we want to know.
Go ahead.
I'll go. In no particular order. Someone in the comments said Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Big fan of that series. That was the reason I got into skateboarding. It hit me at the right time. Also, excellent soundtrack. I also love the Tekken series. Has a fond place in my heart. My first console that somebody gave me to own was a PlayStation 1, and I loved Tekken 2, Tekken 3, Tekken, so on. And then I would have to say, Pokemon shaped my childhood, and probably Final Fantasy. Generally speaking, the series. I think Final Fantasy VII might be the greatest story ever told in any medium. And not just the story of the canonical game, but the way people have extended it, the Square Enix people, the people in the fan community. I think that story about a group of workers of light who want to save, their planet, themselves, and each other. It might be my favorite story ever told. I think it might be the greatest.
That's a bold claim, my friend.
Big time. There are a lot of good stories out there. I think it might be the greatest. So what about you?
Well,
Well,
there's quite a few. I'll start at the beginning of my journey as a gamer. Um, I oh geez, RuneScape is one of the greats. I've had the same account the entire time I've played. It is almost 19 years old.
wow.
There's a lot of hours on that account. Um, Mass Effect, the trilogy, the original trilogy, Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. I think they still hold up, and if you haven't played it, you should do yourself a favor. It's an incredible story. You put that one toe to toe with Final Fantasy. The thing for Mass Effect that set it apart was the amount of player choice that you got to have. You directed the progression of the story, and choices that you made in Mass Effect 1 influenced how you played Mass Effect 3 years later. It's pretty cool. That is an incredible standalone trilogy. Honestly, some of the most fun that I've ever had gaming is playing old 007 games, specifically Nightfire, Agent Under Fire, and GoldenEye. Nightfire was the first. Twisted Metal as a franchise Twisted Metal is pretty incredible. I was not huge into all of the like Mario, DK, all that kind of stuff. I've of course played most of them, and I do love them. I did Forza for a while. Forza is pretty fun. Recently, and by recently I mean for the last 10 years, the vast majority of my time gaming has been spent playing Destiny 1 and Destiny 2. That is like, for me, the gold standard of like running a live ops game, because they've kind of been through it all. They've been through incredibly high highs. They've been through incredibly low lows, like player morale wise. That game is probably, I would have to call it probably my favorite game, but it's also the one that I have like the most negative opinions about, just because I'm like in it all the time. But I'm trying to think. World of
There are
Warcraft.
so many. You mentioned older games. Like I love Mario, like the classic
Yeah.
Mario 3. Big fan of Mega Man as a series. I love Mega Man 3. I don't know what it is about the third installments of series, but like they're usually kick ass.
Yeah.
The Sims 3, loved it. Sims was great.
Christina's a big Sims player.
I don't doubt that. I bet Christina's Sims game is like on another level. Like I was the guy who would just put in the Rosebud cheat and play for a couple hours and like walk away and then come back to it. I feel like Christina's like she could tell you better than me, but a lot of challenges where you'll start with a very specific set of parameters and you'll have to play the game that way. I want to say like a Sims Nuzlocke.
like I know Rags to Riches is one where you start off with absolutely zero. You're not allowed to do any cheats or whatever, and you have to like start off with. I'd have to ask her. I think it's like zero everything, no money, no stuff, just like a person standing on a lot. And like, how do you start making money so generate something that you can sell and then leverage that into selling to earn more and more stuff, and you're supposed to like get to the point where you have a mansion that has been completely like self-made. I know there's a whole bunch of other ones. But that's how she plays. She doesn't play like, do the cheat and then sit. That's how I play as well. Just like first, infinite money. Second, buy all of the businesses in town. Third, steal someone's rich wife in town.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Buy the biggest mansion.
Let him starve.
Get bored and quit.
100 baby challenge, she said in the comments. Oh my god, that is
the 100 baby challenge was it? I want to say it was like 100 babies by 100 different dads or something like that. You have to make it all the way to the end.
I was not expecting it to be that funny, but that's hilarious.
Yeah, she's a specific kind of Sims player.
Unrelated but related. I am struck by the fact that I'm pretty sure for two guys who are, content creators who aspire to, who do this as part of our vocation and aspire to make it part of what earns us like the ability to buy groceries. I'm pretty sure that our partners, if Kimberly and Christina just went ham on content creation,
And
whether it be a crocheting channel, I don't know, reviewing and critiquing our videos, I feel like they would both immediately achieve
yeah,
virality and way more sustained following than both of us. And yet again, would be like here to say like, just supporting you guys. You're just
I
doing your little thing
I
out
tell
here.
her I tell her that all the time. Christina would annihilate me as a content creator if she decided she wanted to do it. I feel like constantly she does something where I'm like, God, that would be such a cool like thing to document on social media. She's rolling her eyes now because I'm constantly trying to monetize all of her hobbies. But like, okay, just recently, something that she has done a lot of, and so you can now help me, and everyone can help me bully her into doing this on video. She
Love
wouldn't
it.
even have to
Right.
talk; just like put on some lo-fi and just do this. Um, but she buys old sweaters from Goodwill and then unravels them into like new skeins of the yarn and then makes other stuff out of them, or even just the process of taking it apart and making the yarn like something that simple could be so cool. It's like people would 100% pay for that, like
Yeah.
reclaimed yarn from old vintage sweaters like that are all thrifted would 100% do that.
You'd never even have to show your face. Honestly, you could get AI to
No.
do voiceover for you. Like I saw a video the other day of somebody unraveling something in like this really cool wool thing machine, and they turned it into yarn, and it
Yep.
had probably 2.5 million views. Not that everything is about views, but to have the support of a million strangers you've never met for a hobby that sometimes maybe feels like, am I the only person who does this?
No,
Uh, it's cool.
you don't have to. I want it to happen so badly that I'm tempted to just like make all of it myself and just use her.
Listen,
Just you don't like Evan said, Christina. You don't even have to put your face in it. Like literally just hands unraveling an old sweater and like ending up with some nice little packets of yarn would be super cool.
I think Kimberly might. I think everybody tends to do better when they show their face, but I get it, not wanting to. I honestly think Kimberly's channel would be like, uh, I don't know. She would give takes on. She's informed and educated and has an opinion and can tell you about it and relatable. People would be like, "Why are you with that guy?" You know what I mean? That would be the only downside of them getting on to the world platform would be. I think they'd get a lot more options. But we love our
That's what
people.
I'm saying.
We just want people to love them as much as we do, but not more than us. Actually, that would be okay, but
No, yeah, I'm already comfortable with the fact that it would be infinitely more popular than anything I will ever do online.
Side note, and maybe my last thing is, Tori. We're gonna need an update for people who can't see the comments. Tori has a friend who is making yarn out of presumably poodle hair. I'm sure they're doing it humanely, and I bet it's soft. I have so many questions, so we'll need an update.
Yeah,
But
but
I'm well met. Are you well met today? Do you think this is a good place to end it now that we're starting to go off into poodle yarn and begging our the loves of our life to make
yeah, I think poodle yarn and trying to bully my wife into making content is probably a good place to end the show for today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think this week, like Evan alluded to, we're going to be doing a lot of gaming stuff. I want to get a little bit more into detail with lists of, I think, games that are doing it the right way and the wrong way. We will talk some shit. I think we can highlight some good creators, good streamers that are, I think, painting Web3 gaming in a good light. There are, I think, a lot more ways we can discuss too, like why does this stuff matter? Why should you care about it? So we touched, tip of the iceberg today is like quite simply, games are digital property. You pay a lot of money to play a lot of these games most of the time. Obviously, there are free games as well. But typically at free games, you're paying with your time and your energy. So regardless, you are paying something for something, and you just don't get to own any of it. I'm trying very hard to get one of my favorite Destiny 2 content creators to join us one of these days, because he just completely unprompted, and this is not like a Web3 person at all. I've never heard him talk about it at all. He just talks about the lore, mostly lore, and just the player experience in Destiny. But just the other day, he just cracked off this awesome video. His handle is Sticky MZ, and it was all about how you don't get to have a crazy opinion about what Destiny is going to do, because as a reminder, you don't own anything with regards to your account. You don't get any of that stuff. None of it's yours. You don't own any of it. They own everything. They can do whatever they want. Doesn't matter how unhappy you are. It's all their choice. And I was like, dude, this is such a good take. This is exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. So I'm going to make an attempt. I don't know if I'll get him, but we will try.
Very cool. Very cool. And even if we don't, we're going to be here. We're going to be talking about it, and we hope that you'll join us. We appreciate all of you, and we'll see you. We'll see you in the morning, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time, morning somewhere, 1 p.m. UTC. Join us then. Until then, be well, and my friends, rise up. See you next time.